Alright guys, welcome back to Valorant News. Cloud9 played Leviatan in a massive series at the Colombian Superdome last night we'll dive into, but also rumours as to what's going on with Sentinels after the recent success of TenZ on the new Breach role. The belief is that he's going to stay on that for the near future, and Sentinels' main objective is to get TenZ better on the Breach and also better on all those roles in that flex category. That means Sassy will stay on the Sky, not a role that he's excelled at in the show matches they've had so far, but this seems to be the recipe for success that Sentinels are going for with this season, with TenZ no longer on the duel list pretty much ever. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Firstly, some crazy roster stuff. This is especially coming from, look, I don't know much about League of Legends, but I'm sure some of you guys do follow it, and the idea that in League of Legends and other esports, let's say Overwatch for example, there's been lots of imports to the North American region from, the Asian region in general. Now, it's kind of crazy to me that in Valorant, this is now happening the other way. There's quite a few imports that are happening now from North America going into the Asia Pacific region. Ban is one such example here, and he says Gen.G, but that's actually not the case, and he will be joining, we believe, Talon. So this was actually a rumor that I mentioned the other day, that, Talon are going to sign Lenny, but also Governor and Ban to the roster. So, Governor, Ban, both, from North America. Pretty crazy stuff really to think about, that they're importing to the Asia Pacific region. We've now seen this with Ye. There's other players as well, which this applies to over the last couple of seasons. It's kind of cool for these guys. I know that people have been roasting Ban and saying, oh, they can do better than this guy. We'll see. I mean, let's be honest, I wasn't so convinced by the Whippy pickup, but so far that's looking reasonably good for the Cloud9 guys. But speaking of Cloud9, we've got to mention the series that they played yesterday against Leviatan. Now, the tournament is still going on. I'm guessing it concludes today with the grand finals. These are the 4 teams that are there. So yeah, it concludes today. There's still free tickets. If you guys are local, then, still free tickets available, I imagine at least, because 1,000 seems quite a lot of free tickets to be giving away on a last-minute basis. But yeah, Fury, Crew, Leviatan, Cloud9 are in attendance. As I said yesterday, fair play to Cloud9, flying all over the world at the moment to get some good practice in before the new season. Now, Crew got eliminated from the tournament by Furia in, again, pretty dominant fashion. Now, TacticalRab had a terrible series against Leviatan. He got absolutely bodied. This one, it doesn't go too much better for him, to be fair. And Havoc was there, to be fair, but, Havoc especially was topping the leaderboards here on the KO and the Sky. Havoc, a player that was linked to be going to the Loud team. That never happened in the end. Not exactly sure why, but the rumor was that Havoc was practicing with Loud even during the pre-World Championship practice scrims when Aspas was staying in the States for whatever reason. It's all speculation. But Havoc had a good one here, 13-5, and the next one was 13-9. So pretty comfortable for Furia. Crew Esports, not looking so good. There's questions about what happens to Taco now. But Furia will move on to play up against Cloud9 again because they went down to Leviatan. And this was an emphatically impressive series here from Lev. And look, at the start of last season, Lev, people were talking about, damn, this team so good. When NRG were practicing against them during the lock-in tournaments back in Sao Paulo, there was all the talk about, wow, Leviatan, like, these guys are crazy good. And now you look at their team. They started out last season really well. They eventually faltered, and it didn't quite end the same way that it started, to be honest. But now they've formed a team, like with Nazo and King and Mazzino and Tex and Aspas, that's just insanely good on paper. And they all played very well this series. And C9 basically had no chance. I mean, like, Oxy had a hard time here. To be fair, he was largely playing at times against, like, double duelists. And that didn't go so well. Like, Aspas and Tex just had their way. And look at the consistency. How often do you see this? 31, 32, 31, 31, 31. Like, in terms of the kill departments. Having all your players within 1 kill of each other that's got to be a very rare occurrence. And that shows incredibly good team play. Sure, the ratings and the ACS are going to differ somewhat, but even the first bloods are quite well distributed between Tex and Aspas. So that's an impressive team composition, right? The fact that King is their IGL is to deliver good results like this. I mean, it was just remarkable. I mean, like on the Sky as well on Haven was ridiculous game 1. 13-7, super comfortable, and then it was 13-6 on the split. So, and Aspas was 18-6. So, I mean, yeah, this team is looking really good, and I know it's the first real sign we've had of this Leviatan team, but of all the teams in the South American region, even including Loud, I really like this LEV team. I mean, the signing of Aspas, getting Tex in as well, was such a, not exactly a strange acquisition, but again, it was one of these moves that you wouldn't have predicted going into the offseason. But yeah, the rumour is that effectively the guard, now G2, wanted Tex gone. They wanted a replacement there. They've done that now. They've brought Leaf into their team, and Tex has now gone on to potentially even greener pastures because these guys are looking nice, and Tex was a big part of the reason why. So we'll see if Cloud9 can bounce back here. Obviously an off day for them in some respects, but yeah, maybe LEV are just straight up better, because on paper they should be. You know, on paper, LEV should be better than Cloud9 as far as I'm concerned, but the magnitude of the victory yesterday was no doubt quite impressive. Early days, early season, but yeah, we'll stay tuned, and as King even says here, happy with the level we're showing, but there's still a lot to improve. We're nowhere near our peak yet. So that's a pretty scary sign for the rest of the teams around the Americas region for sure, and as Tech says, bringing us to the grand finals, and they will, well, we'll see what they play here in a second. I guess I'll just go back to the overall tournament just to check out what's happening, because yeah, this evening Cloud9 play Furia, and then shortly after that the winner of that then plays Leviatan to determine who actually wins the tournament and collects the, I think it's $12,000 prize pool for the first place. Vanity was not so happy with their performance, reckons that sometimes they play well, sometimes they do not play so well, so we'll see if they can bounce back and beat Furia again. But if they do play, I'd be interested to see what happens in a rematch, because if they played LEV again in a rematch, would they be better, or would LEV do what they did to them yesterday again, which could well happen later on today. Now let's talk about Sentinels. They went karting actually yesterday, which is, you know, always a good team building activity. Tens tweets out all the screenshots here of kind of like the times, I guess, that the guys did on their lap times. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. I'm pretty sure Tens was topping most of these numbers, but actually the fastest overall lap time actually went to Drew Spark with a 30.3, who is their analyst, of course. So then he tweets this out: update, I still own Zelsis. So yeah, we've got to best time of these ones. They did 14 laps. Drew, well, he actually kind of iced up on that one. His final lap of the 14, he had the fastest lap time, I believe, of the day with a 30.3, 10 out of 30.6. Obviously, that's Zelsis for the 32, and, you know, we can see Coach Kaplan and stuff like this that also were in attendance, so pretty fun stuff. People are wondering, of course, when Sentinels are next going to be playing again, when's their next, like, show match going to be, when's their next tournament going to be, but also discussion on the roles that they were using during those recent tournaments. The fact that Tens was predominantly on the breach, or just on the flex role in general, Sassy on the initiator, usually on the Sky, was, you know, not doing so well. To be fair, some of that was because the entire rest of the team were playing so well. Like Zekken was fragging out, Gen.G was fragging out, Zelsis and Tens were fragging out. There wasn't too many frags yet for Sassy to get on the map, to be honest. And so maybe that's part of the reason why his stats don't look so good for the last, you know, 30 days or so. So there was some discussion here on the VLR about, you know, maybe Sassy should go off the Sky. Could Tens go to the Sky, Sassy to the breach or something? Like, what about the possibilities there? But actually, turns out James of Effort discussed this with Drew Spark, who we just saw, and said that he said primarily Tens will not be switching from the main breach player. As for Sassy, he will be sticking to his current roles, mainly Sky and Sova. They want to let Tens develop on his current flex roles before anything else. So this is Sentinel's plan, and they're very confident that what Tens is currently doing on the breach is the way to go. Tens has mentioned this before, that he doesn't feel like his best role is the primary entry Jets player necessarily. He kind of would like to be in like a double duelist, I'm guessing, as the second man in, but that's where he feels like he's at his best, when he can be a bit more creative and he can be not exactly the entry fragger. So that role is basically going to Zekken, who is now running the full-time duelist, and Tens is using his mechanical talent elsewhere, predominantly now on the breach. So when we first saw this, it was a bit of a surprise that Tens was using the breach a fair bit. I mean, let's just look for the last, 30 days, 60 days, the same doesn't matter because it's the same tournaments that they've played. Tens has played only breach, KO, Yoru, Omen, and Harbor. So he's kind of been all over the place, but it's mostly, for 124 rounds, been the breach, and then it's kind of been the KO as well. And I mean, the KD with the breaches at a 1.3, we can see all the numbers here across the series they played. Very impressive stuff in the last 30 days. So I don't understand why Sentinels would change their mind on this, right? Makes sense. Tens is killing it on the breach. It's working well for the team. Okay, their results weren't exactly blowouts all the times, and they're not playing teams like Leviatan or Cloud9, but they're still playing respectable teams such as G2 and some top teams, some challengers in Tier 2, which are going to be very competitive this season in Ascension. position yet again, but it's working out for Tens. Now, the Sassy side is interesting though, just because, you know, these are the numbers of Sassy over the last 30 days, despite the fact that they've won basically everything that Sassy's played in. He's got a 1.03 on the Sky, he's got a 0.97 on the Fade, and you could argue that Sky right now is one of the best, if not, you know, the best agent in the game, and Sova wasn't looking so good as well. So, you know, it's early days, but I think that Sentinels probably have the right idea here, you know, let Tens cook on what he's currently doing, use the breach, use the KO, or just get more comfortable in a few of those flex roles, and then figure out what happens elsewhere, because their current team structure makes a lot of sense. Like the way that Pancada is, I'm guessing, still going to be there on the controller, at least for the time being. We believe that Zelsis was still practicing with them as recently as just the other day, but Pancada should be back, and we're pretty sure that Zelsis was just stepping in because Pancada was still unwell. So we'll see over time if that changes at all. John QT's been killing it on, you know, the IGL and running the Sentinel. Zekin on the Duelist, Tens on primarily the Breach main now seems to be the way to go. And the way the meta is currently set up makes a lot of sense. I think it has been the trend of certainly the last year or so that teams such as NRG, but also Evil Geniuses especially, became very versatile at the end of last season. One of the reasons why they did so well was because you had Demon 1, best player in the world, arguably, on the Brimstone, having great impact. So when I think a lot of teams probably saw that and thought, well, hang on a second here, Ethan and Demon 1 are incredibly versatile, and they're still dropping big numbers. Like, we need the same for our star players, and that's probably what Sentinels are trying to go for here with Tens on that full-time breach/flex type of position. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on the implications in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.